Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we grab a whole stack of sources, really get into them, and pull out the most interesting insights for you.
That's the plan.
And today, wow, we're diving into the brilliantly weird world of Monty Python. I mean, think about their humor, surreal, totally unexpected.
Groundbreaking, really. Changed comedy.
Absolutely. But here's where this particular analysis gets, well, really interesting. We're not just going to rehash sketches. We're looking at them through a lens you probably wouldn't expect. Their astrological charts.
Yeah, it's definitely unconventional. The main source we're using is this analysis called Astrology of Monty Python, finding the Uranian plus anti-Saturn nature of the legendary comedy troupe.
Uranian and anti-Saturn nature. Okay, what does that actually mean in, like, simpler terms for people maybe not deep into astrology?
Right. So basically the source is suggesting that Python's whole style embodies this disruptive, unconventional energy that's the Uranian part. Uranus is often associated with breaking rules, sudden changes, that kind of thing.
Okay, the unexpected element.
Exactly. And the anti-Saturn bit, well, Saturn often represents structure, tradition, authority. So anti-Saturn suggests they were pushing against that, subverting norms.
Challenging the establishment, which they definitely did.
Right. So the analysis is basically looking for links between, planetary alignments in their birth charts and this very specific comedic style. It's suggesting a connection between the cosmos and their comedy.
Fascinating stuff. So, okay, our mission today is to unpack those proposed connections. We're going to pull insights straight from this astrological analysis.
Yep. See what it suggests.
And see how these planetary alignments are maybe tied to what made Python so innovative. You might find some genuinely surprising connections here. Could offer a totally fresh way to look at them.
Definitely a different perspective.
All right, let's get into it. We're starting with John Cleese.
Okay.
This analysis highlights something pretty significant in his chart. Uranus, which you said is about disruption, innovation,
Right.
is in opposition to Mercury. And Mercury governs communication, wit.
It's exactly. Thinking, communication, wordplay.
And the source calls this opposition where the planets are like directly across the chart from each other, the classic comedian's signature. So what's the thinking there? How does that Mercury-Uranus opposition usually play out? And what else does the source point out for Cleese?
Well, it's interesting. The source suggests this opposition creates this real, dynamic tension. It fuels that kind of sharp, biting, unexpected humor Cleese is just famous for.
Definitely. The sudden pivots.
Yeah. Mercury's how we think and talk. Uranus throws in the shocks, the curveballs, the originality. So when they're opposed, it can mean a mind that's constantly challenging norms, constantly surprising you. The analysis also notes his sun, Venus, and Mercury are all in Scorpio.
Okay.
Which is a sign often linked with intensity, probing insight, getting beneath the surface. And his sun squares Pluto, another aspect, potentially indicating a really focused, maybe even transformative kind of drive. So the source puts this all together, the sharp Mercury-Uranus tension, the Scorpio intensity, the Pluto drive, and suggests it offers this unique viewpoint. It connects it, potentially, to Cleese's famously intense, almost surgical comedic delivery.
You can definitely see a potential link there, that laser focus he has. Okay, so shifting gears. Eric Idle. The analysis finds a different signature, but still potent.
Right.
It talks about Mercury in a tight sextile to Uranus and Saturn. And it also says Uranus and Saturn being in Gemini is a comedian signature by sign. So a sextile, not an opposition. And Saturn's involved here too.
Yes. And crucially, the source points out Mercury rules both Saturn and Uranus in his chart because they're in Gemini, which Mercury rules.
Right. So how does the source read this combination, that Mercury-Uranus-Saturn thing?
Well, a sextile, astrologically speaking, is generally seen as a more harmonious aspect than an opposition or a square. It suggests opportunity, like the energies can work together more easily.
Okay, less tension, more flow.
Sort of, yeah. So having Mercury communication in this smooth sextile with both Uranus innovation and Saturn structure, maybe dry wit, could suggest a really unique blend, especially with Mercury in charge, so to speak.
And in Gemini, you said?
Yeah, Gemini being an air sign emphasizes that quick, clever, intellectual quality. So the source suggests this setup is perfect for a certain kind of comedic expression, fluid, clever, mixing the unconventional Uranian ideas with a more structured, maybe witty, Saturnian delivery.
Huh. You could definitely connect that to Idle's, clever wordplay, the songs.
The musicality, the puns, yeah. It fits that pattern the source is proposing.
Okay, moving on to Terry Jones. The analysis says he has Mercury retrograde.
Ah, retro.
In a tight square with Uranus and a wider square with Saturn. So, okay, first, What does retrograde mean here? And then squares, you mentioned those suggest challenges.
Good questions. So retrograde in a birth chart doesn't mean the planet was actually moving backward in space. Astrologically, it's interpreted as the planet's energy being processed more internally, perhaps in a less conventional, maybe more reflective way.
Okay, turned inward somewhat.
Something like that. And yes, a square aspect generally indicates tension, friction, a challenge. But that challenge can also be a source of dynamism. It pushes you to act or express things forcefully.
Right.
So for Terry Jones, having this internally focused Mercury retrograde squaring both Uranus, the unconventional, and Saturn, structure rules. Well, the source suggests this points to a mind that processes things uniquely. Maybe really pushes against the status quo internally. And that internal friction, the hypothesis goes, could fuel the kind of absurdist, often anti-establishment humor he was known for, constantly challenging boundaries, breaking structures. There's that anti-Saturn idea again.
That definitely resonates with the surreal stuff, the direction he took in the films, often quite subversive. So we've got Cleese's sharp disruption, Idol's clever structure bending, Jones's more internally driven absurdity. It's fascinating how these individual readings, according to the source, echo that overall Uranian vibe, that push for the new, the unexpected.
Yeah, the common thread seems to be that Uranian signature manifesting differently.
Okay, next up, Terry Gilliam. His chart, the analysis says, shows a wide opposition between Mercury and Uranus. There's that link again.
Familiar pattern.
But also a tighter opposition between his sun and Uranus. How does this fit with Gilliam, especially, his visual contribution?
Right. So we see the Mercury-Uranus opposition, again, similar to Cleese's, though maybe playing out slightly differently because it's wider. It reinforces that theme of unconventional thinking, maybe a rebellious streak.
But the Sun-Uranus one is tighter.
Yes, and the source puts emphasis on that. The sun represents your core identity, your ego, your fundamental self. Having that in tight opposition to Uranus, the planet of radical change and originality, is interpreted here as really emphasizing his role as the visual pioneer. It suggests someone whose very being, their core identity, is tied up in pushing boundaries, creating something utterly unique, maybe even shocking visually. It's seen as a powerful signature for, shattering visual norms.
Which makes perfect sense when you think of his animations, his film direction, instantly recognizable, completely unique.
Absolutely. It's a compelling connection the source draws.
And finally, Graham Chapman. The reading here is quite brief. It just states he has Mercury, trine, Moon, and Uranus. So a trine. How's that different from squares and oppositions? And what might this setup suggest for Chapman?
Okay, so a trine generally is considered the most flowing, harmonious aspect. Where squares and oppositions represent tension or confrontation, a trine suggests ease, natural talent, integration. The energies work together smoothly.
So less struggle, more natural flow.
That's the general idea. So for Chapman, having Mercury communication in an easy trine with the Moon, emotions, instincts, and Uranus, originality, the unexpected, suggests a very natural, perhaps almost effortless blending of these things. The source suggests this configuration could contribute to his incredible deadpan delivery. His ability to play the most absurd characters like the Colonel or the lead in Holy Grail with this grounded, totally believable conviction.
As if the absurdity was just normal for him.
Exactly. Like his inner world, his unique Uranian ideas, and his emotional instincts just flowed very smoothly into his outward expression via Mercury. It's an interesting hypothesis for his particular comedic genius.
It really is. So, okay, stepping back, what have we unpacked here? This deep dive looked at how one specific astrological analysis connects these planetary signatures, Mercury, Uranus, Saturn seem key.
Definitely recurring themes.
To the very distinct comedy styles, and this proposed Uranian plus anti-Saturn nature of the individual Pythons. It's definitely a unique way to look at their collective genius, not your standard comedy analysis.
Not at all. And what's really interesting, I think, is how even an unconventional analysis like this coming from astrology can offer a framework, a different way to maybe spot patterns or think about talent and creativity.
Right. It gives you a different language, a different lens to see things you might otherwise miss.
It encourages looking at influences from maybe unexpected angles.
Exactly. It's about being open to different ways of understanding things, even if they seem unusual at first glance. So that brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on.
Okay.
When you think about unique genius, whether it's an individual, a group like Python, anyone really, how might looking at them through an unexpected lens maybe something like astrology, maybe something else entirely outside the usual analysis.
Mm-hmm.
How might that help you uncover patterns or signatures you'd completely miss otherwise?
Yeah. What might you see if you tilt your head and look from a different angle?
Something to think about.